Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Mike and Greg, and pass down the sheets that come around. By a show of hands, if you don't mind, how many people believe in miracles? Believe in miracles. How many people believe that miracles happened to our ancestors, or our ancestors? Nearly unanimous. How many people believe that miracles still happen today? Interesting. Nearly unanimous. Maybe this is called preaching to the choir. But as we talk about the nature of miracles, ultimately our rabbis come to define miracle as anything that suspends the law of nature. A miracle is anything that suspends the law of nature. So, for example, at the birth of my children, I had no doubt that God was present in my life. But they wouldn't necessarily call that a miracle because that was part of the natural order. The parting of the Red Sea, now that's a miracle. So, it's interesting to talk about the role of God in our lives, but also the nature of miracles. What is the difference? Is there really a difference? To me, as I'm sure to you, my children are certainly miracles. That's not to say that my children are miracles to you, but all of us, when we look at our children, should really understand God and see God's presence in our lives. But there's yet another question. If you look and think about your own life, now, this is a question you don't have to answer for the congregation, but in your own head. Is there a time where God suspended the laws of nature and God's proverbial hand came down into the world and affected your life? Is there a time when God's proverbial hand came down into this world, suspending the laws of nature, and affected your life? We read this week from Parshat Korach. And Korach is a wonderful and challenging Torah portion. As I spoke about just a few minutes ago at the beginning of the Torah service, Korach is, in our eyes, a freedom fighter. But through the rabbi's eyes, he was a rebel who transgressed not only Moses and Aaron, but God. Because Moses and Aaron were God's chosen leaders, and Korach challenged them. And Korach comes to Moses and Aaron and says, "You're Levites and I'm a Levite. Who are you to be in charge of the Israelite people? We're equals." And in fact, Korach knows his Torah. He lived it. And he said, God says that all of us were supposed to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. So who are you to act above all the rest of us? Korach says all of us are holy. You, Moses and Aaron, are no more holy, no holier than the rest of us. Now, as good Americans in the 21st century who believe in democracy, we can sort of buy into Korach's argument. But the way our rabbis read the text is that Korach was not the George Washington or the Thomas Jefferson of the Israelites. Korach was arrogant. Korach was someone who didn't really care that much about God or the Israelites. He only cared about getting his name in the press. Korach thought he was better than everybody else. Korach was out for Korach. And so our rabbis come to read this text as an example of a person who comes forward, tries to make the right claims, but has all of the wrong reasons for doing them. His heart is not in the right place. And ultimately what happens in our Torah this week is that Korach challenges Moses and Aaron. Moses and Aaron say to God, God, you decide who should be in charge. And so Moses and Aaron make an offering, and Korach makes an offering, and they say, God, you decide which one is the holy one. Sure enough, the ground opens up, swallows Korach and his followers right where they are, closes back over top of them, and they disappear forever. Making it pretty clear who God favors. If you were ever in a debate, perhaps a courtroom, and the earth opened up and swallowed up the other side, you'd have a pretty good sense that God was on your side. For our rabbis, though, it's not just then Moses and Aaron were the winners and Korach was the loser. They wanted to know the nature of this awesome miracle. And so here we have, and now I refer to your text. This comes from Pirkei Avot, the wisdom of our ancestors, which is a selection of the Mishnah. And here we're looking at chapter 5, Mishnah 6. And it says, 10 things were created on the eve of the first Shabbat at twilight. What are they? Well, they are the mouth of the earth, the mouth of the well, the mouth of the donkey, the rainbow, the man, the staff, the shamir, the writing instrument, and the talents. So what we're looking at are a number of natural miracles, as well as very specific to the Jewish people, construction miracles that took place. So many of these are familiar, so I'll ask the first question. Why were they created on the eve of the first Shabbat at twilight? What is the nature of that time? Any ideas? It's interesting. They could have been created at any point along the 6 days of creation, but it specifically says Friday evening, just before Shabbos.
To separate the Shabbos, you can't work on Shabbos, so and perhaps they were needed before Shabbos. They had to be completed before Shabbos. This was the first Shabbos.
Okay, so this was the first Shabbos. They had to be completed before Shabbos. Certainly there's an element of that, and they were actually created in some way in the heavens, and on earth they were prepared ahead of time. There's something special about that Friday late afternoon transition. It's not quite the work week, but it's not quite Shabbos anymore either. This is when we really start to get ready to welcome God into our lives. And so it was at that moment when we start to get ready to welcome God into our lives that the miracles were created. So it's interesting that the miracle of the earth splitting, as you see the very first thing mentioned, the mouth of the earth, this is during the days of Korach, when the earth opened up and split. It wasn't a miracle that God went like that and happened right away. God actually prepared the mouth of the earth at the very beginning of creation, ready for that moment when Korach would challenge Moses and Aaron. And it's interesting to watch Rashi and Ramban argue over how exactly it worked. Ramban thinks very clearly that God created this humongous pit in the earth and then very carefully covered it over so that however many thousands of years later, when Korach's time came, it would know to open right then and there. So these are the 10 things created on the eve of twilight. They're the mouth of the earth, that is the opening that occurred during Korach's rebellion. The mouth of the well. What well are we talking about? Miriam's well, that occurred during the Israelites' 40 years of wandering throughout the wilderness. Wherever they stopped, Miriam would miraculously uncover a well. So all those wells were created at the very beginning of creation, just before Shabbat. The mouth of the donkey, the mouth of the ass, right? This is not a statement about politicians. This is, right, our parsha coming up, the story of Balak and Balaam. The rainbow, Noah. The manna, you're familiar with. The staff of Moses. This is the staff that helped bring upon the plagues on Egypt. Right? It was a miraculous staff that helped bring those plagues. The shamir. Now I had to look up what exactly they were referring to when it said the shamir. And if you look to the paragraph that says number 1, I wrote next to it. Although the word shamir in Jeremiah chapter 17 refers to a flint, in the rabbinic mind, the word referred to a miraculous worm that when placed on the hardest stone could split it. This worm, now extinct, was so hard that it was purported to cleave large stones as it crawled over them. Solomon was said to have used it to cut the stones for the building of the temple. It was also to have been used to engrave the names of the tribes on the 2 stones for the shoulders of the ephod worn by the high priest. It is significant because the use of iron tools in the building of an altar to God is forbidden. And so our rabbis asked, how could they have built this holy temple? How could they have made the ephod on the high priest's shoulder blades? Could have only been done by miracle. It was by the worm that was created at twilight, just before Shabbat. Of course, then we have the writing instrument. Can you guess what the writing instrument was? You see the commentary at the bottom. It goes along with the tablets. That was whatever was used to actually write the tablets of the Ten Commandments, and then the tablets themselves were miraculous. So according to our rabbis, all of these things were made on the eve of Shabbat, just before Shabbos came in. These 10 very specific miracles were created and hidden away, waiting for just the right time when they were to be used. And then some say also, in addition to those 10, destructive spirits, the grave of Moses, the ram of our patriarch Abraham. Some even say the first tongs, which are made by tongs. Okay, now I understood, destructive spirits that are out to get people. I understood how the grave of Moses could be a miracle because it's been hidden to this day, right, on top of Mount Nebo, and how that could have been a miracle that was created. I certainly understand how the ram that was caught in the thicket during the binding of Isaac, that was waiting there so that Abraham could sacrifice that ram rather than Isaac, how that was a miracle created early on and could be waiting there. I had to look up the tongs, which were made by tongs. It wasn't quite as evident to me. If you turn over to the back of the page, it says the last wonder, these tongs, is an attempt to answer the question that must have occurred to anyone using tongs. If one needs tongs to hold material to make tongs, who made the first one? Brilliant. Brilliant. Our rabbis were actually asking that question. So all of these miracles were created early on. And it comes back to challenge us about the nature of miracles. There's no doubt to me that 1948 we saw a miracle. No doubt in my mind. There's no doubt to me that in 1967, the Six-Day War, that was a miracle. But why God was quiet from 1939 to 1945, I don't understand. There's no doubt to me that God plays a role in our lives each and every day, and that God's hand actually reaches down and helps us at moments of need, and God actually suspends the laws of nature to help us at certain moments. There's no question of that in my mind. But how God could allow the church shooting to occur this past week. This guy could walk in and, in my head, he sits down at Torah study with these people, right? They were engaged in Bible study. For an hour, he learned with them, and then opened fire. How does that happen? I don't know. This Shabbat of Parashat Korach, though, we're challenged to wrestle with the nature of God and the role of God in our lives. Do you believe that God performs miracles? Nearly all of us do. How? And to what extent? And are we truly able to see that all the miracles that God performs for us each and every day? Shabbat Shalom.